They say the Navy SEALs don't get impressed easily. They've seen storms, wars, and the kind of pain that would break ordinary souls in half. But that morning, when a quiet woman in a gray hoodie stood at the edge of the training pool and asked, "Mind if I try?" every SEAL in the yard turned to look. Some smirked. Some laughed. None of them knew that in less than an hour, she'd make history. Hey everyone, welcome back to Her Mission Diaries, where we share real stories of grit, courage, and women rewriting the rules. If stories like this move you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you powerful tales like this one. Now, let's dive in. The training base in Coronado was quiet that morning, except for the sound of waves and the metallic clank of pull-up bars. It was Hell Week, the toughest phase of SEAL training, but the recruits weren't the only ones being tested. The instructors, known for their cold precision, were preparing for a visit from a civilian consultant, a psychologist studying endurance under stress. That was her. Dr. Emily Carson. At first glance, Emily looked nothing like someone who belonged there. She was small-framed, barely 5'4", with kind eyes that didn't scream warrior. She wasn't wearing fatigues, just running shoes and that hoodie. To the SEALs, she was just another observer. But as she stood near the pool, watching the trainees attempt the drown-proofing drill, a brutal test involving tied hands and feet, meant to push the mind past panic, something inside her shifted. One trainee surfaced too early, coughing and gasping for air. The instructor barked, "10-year record still stands. No one's lasted past 22 minutes. That's when Emily's voice, calm but confident, cut through the noise. "Mind if I try?" The laughter came instantly. A few of the younger SEALs exchanged looks. One whispered, "Is she serious?" Another said, "Ma'am, it's not a good idea. This drill isn't for visitors." But Emily only smiled. "I know. That's why I want to try." There was something in her tone, not arrogance but a quiet fire, that made the commanding officer nod. "All right, Doc, your call." The ropes went around her wrists and ankles. The water glimmered dark and cold. She took one slow breath and stepped off the edge. Seconds passed, then minutes. At 5 minutes, the laughter stopped. At 10, silence filled the training yard. At 15, even the waves seemed to hold still. Emily floated, calm, controlled, her eyes open underwater. When her body twitched with fatigue, she forced her mind back into focus, remembering something her brother once told her. "Pain is just your body asking if you're sure. Tell it yes." Her brother, a SEAL, had died during a covert mission 10 years ago, the same year the record was set. The same record she was now breaking. At 22 minutes, she was still moving. Barely, but still. The instructors leaned in, timing every second. At 24, the stopwatch clicked. The old record, gone. When they pulled her out of the water, she was trembling but smiling. "So," she gasped, "did I qualify for a t-shirt?" For a long second, no one said anything. Then the base erupted in applause. She hadn't just shattered a record. She'd silenced doubt, the quiet kind that whispers you're not enough. If that gave you goosebumps, hit like and subscribe right now to Her Mission Diaries. When Emily broke the record, the SEALs saw strength. What they didn't see was the storm beneath it. That night, long after the yard was empty, she sat by the waterline alone, still shivering. Her hands were raw from the ropes, her chest ached, but her mind was alive. She could still hear her brother's voice. "One day, Em, you'll understand why we do what we do." He'd said those words before his final deployment, the one that went wrong. For years, Emily had buried her grief under research and reports, studying endurance, trauma, and fear. But she'd never faced her own. Until that day. The next morning, the commanding officer approached her quietly. "Dr. Carson," he said, "you didn't have to prove anything to us." She smiled faintly. "I wasn't proving anything to you, Commander. I was proving something to myself." He nodded slowly, understanding. "Still, you've done something none of us expected. You've reminded us why we started." For the next week, Emily stayed on base, observing, teaching breathing techniques, and listening to the recruits' fears. They called her Doc, but not the way they did before. There was respect now, the kind you earn not by rank, but by heart. One evening, a young trainee came to her after a brutal endurance drill. "Ma'am," he said, "how did you stay calm in that pool?" She thought for a moment. "I stopped fighting it." The water doesn't care how strong you are. It only listens when you stop resisting. He nodded, taking that in. It was a lesson the SEALs would carry far beyond the pool. Before leaving, the team gathered around her. Someone had framed the stopwatch photo, 2406, and scribbled a note beneath it. Records break. Legends teach. As the helicopter took her away from the base, Emily looked out at the ocean and whispered, "You were right. Jake, I finally understand. The record would stand for years, but what she left behind wasn't just a number. It was belief. That strength isn't about muscle or size or gender. It's about refusing to let your fear define your finish line." And that's the story of Dr. Emily Carson, the woman who walked onto a SEAL base as a visitor and left as a legend. If you felt her story, give this video a like and make sure to subscribe to her Mission Diaries for more real stories of courage and quiet strength. Because out there are hundreds of Emilys, and every one of them has a mission worth hearing.